Welcome to Law Easy. My name is Martin Shenkman, and I'm joined by Brian Boak, an insurance advisor who I've known forever. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a really important topic that I think is likely mishandled more than it's handled properly. Very, very common with estate planning for somebody to take a home, a vacation home, sometimes even a primary residence, and have it owned by an LLC, owned by a trust. So, for example, if there's an irrevocable trust that the family has set up for a child, and that child wants to buy a home, smarter approach not to give the money from the trust to the child for the down payment, rather have the trust perhaps buy the house. If the trust is in a different jurisdiction, let's say Delaware, a legal and tax favored jurisdiction, and the house is in, for example, New York, you want to put the house in an LLC so you don't have a out-of-state trust owning a property in another state. The question that we're going to deal with, which is really practical and again is not addressed thoroughly enough in too many cases, how do you handle the insurance for a house that now may be in an LLC and in a trust? What do you do? What's different?
What's different is the ownership is different, and that's what you have to look at, because the insurance company, in the event of a claim, can only pay the owner of whatever it is, whether it's personal property, whether it's scheduled items, or whether it's the house itself or a liability exposure. So
Okay.
Ownership is tied to the insurance.
I just don't see people following up on this enough, and it concerns me. Do you have some comments, some experience that or case studies, war stories that you may want to share, some recommendations how to make sure it gets dealt with right? Like, what do you send to the insurance company? So if I deed the house into an LLC, do I send them that deed, a copy of the operating agreement? Who do I deal with? Is the agent able to handle this?
The agent is able to handle it. Unfortunately, many agents who are not used to dealing with this type of clientele don't ask the question.
Correct.
And the second part is the client thinks it's my trust. It's my trust.
Right.
Why do I need to change anything?
Correct.
It's not like I got rid of the house or anything.
I'm still being used by the same family member, whoever that is.
It's still the John Smith trust, so
Right.
John Smith's on the policy. Everything should be good, right?
No. So if a lawyer is implementing a plan, if an advisor is implementing a plan, the wealth advisor is helping implement the plan, this is obviously something they need to address. Would the client directly deal with the insurance agent? Is it worth the advisor contacting the insurance agent? Should the advisor prepare something in writing and attach copies of the governing documents and send them to the insurance consultant? How do you recommend that be handled so the ball's not dropped?
The insurance company rarely asks for any of the documents.
Okay.
Okay. They may on a larger issue, but rarely do they ask for it. What needs to be done, the way I see it, is the person who is creating the idea of the transaction, which may be the wealth advisor, may be the lawyer, needs to follow through on the second part. And unfortunately, insurance is always considered the redheaded stepchild of estate planning.
It is.
And we are not brought in on estate planning matters, though this is one area where a client can lose millions of dollars instantaneously and unrecoverably by something not being done.
Right.
So I believe if the lawyer is drafting the document, the lawyer, as part of his process and procedure, should make sure that that change is made to the point of saying, I need to see a copy of the endorsement showing that this trust or LLC, or both, depending on how it's set up, is listed on the policy.
Right. The problem practically from that perspective is many clients don't want to incur the fees to let the attorney follow up. I mean, that's the norm of what I see most of the time. So at minimum, we put it in writing, trying to advise the client, encourage the client. We certainly tell the client to follow up. But I think that this is a great point, that when there's a periodic review, if the wealth advisor is meeting with the client, the lawyer may have told the client, maybe the client doesn't remember, maybe they contacted somebody and it wasn't followed up, but this is a good item for all the different advisors on the team to have on their checklist, because as you pointed out quite astutely, you could be talking about a multi-million-dollar loss if it's not insured properly. Now, if I have a structure where the house is in an LLC because it's owned by a trust in a different state, Do you name just the LLC as owner? Do you name the trust as owner? Do you name both?
At minimum, depending on how it's structured, at minimum the LLC, probably the trust also. And the reason behind that is you don't want any issues coming up down the road.
How would you phrase it? How would you word it to the insurance company? 123 Main Street LLC, owned by the Smith Family Trust. Would you say that in the policy?
Basically, you'd send the name of the LLC and you'd send the name of the trust and you'd explain how it's structured.
So the
and
LLC owns a house and the trust owns, let's say, 100% of the LLC, which is common.
Correct.
And that's how it's structured, and that's what they should then be unnoticed for.
And then the insurance company can figure out how they want to word it. So their wording is right.
Would you go as far as having somebody, whether it's the client or an advisor, send a certified letter to the insurance company to document that you've put them on notice?
I don't think that's required because, one, the insurance company is generally not going to listen to you. They're only going to listen to the broker.
Right.
Okay. And then once the broker relays that information to the insurance company is going to issue an endorsement that shows that listed.
Okay. Let's do one last quick topic on the same similar issues. Very common for people to have a revocable trust. If a revocable trust is set up by me and I'm the trustee and I put my house in it, and often that's done to avoid probate, but frankly, it's a great tool for later life planning where you're trying to get everything in a structure with succession planning. So if I become incapacitated, someone can be there, not just probate avoidance, all of it. If it's a revocable trust, and a lot of clients will have a revocable trust set up under their own Social Security number, if I'm the trustee and it's under my social, do I need to do it there?
Depends on the insurance company.
You're not the lawyer. You can't use the word depends.
Well, you got to realize with the insurance company, I don't determine whether the claim is paid or not. The insurance company does.
So what would you do in this case?
I'd put it on there because it cost me nothing.
Makes sense. Makes
It
sense.
cost me now.
But you do feel different that a revocable trust may arguably not need it if I'm the trustee in my own trust, is contrasted with an irrevocable trust where it has to be.
Correct.
Okay.
The revocable trust is the question mark. The LLC and the irrevocable trust are the mandate.
Okay. But it really makes sense, like you said, very practical point. If it doesn't cost anything to get it, now you would call that an endorsement?
Endorsement.
That's what you want done.
It's a change to the policy.
Right. So any last comment before we wrap up?
Quick case study. House owned by a trust. Claim. House burns down. Somebody's injured. Long story short is, if the house is owned by the trust, the insurance company will probably not pay to rebuild that house. They may pay for the contents because that's owned by the human. If there's any art transferred into the trust, may not be covered. Second part, claim on liability, the trust is going to have to pay for its own legal defense and any judgment assigned to it.
Wow. So this is kind of a boring topic, but a really critical topic. When you have personal homes, vacation homes, owned by a trust, owned by an LLC, make sure that you've addressed the insurance coverage properly. As with all these video clips, we're not giving legal, tax, or other professional advice. You need to speak with an advisor. Thank you for joining.